Elihu's second speech. It's impossible for God to do evil. Elihu continued, "So, my fine friends, listen to me, and see what you think of this. Isn't it just common sense, as common as the sense of taste, to put our heads together and figure out what's going on here? We've all heard Job say, 'I'm in the right, but God won't give me a fair trial. When I defend myself, I'm called a liar to my face. I've done nothing wrong, and I get punished anyway.' Have you ever heard anything to beat this? Does nothing faze this man Job? Do you think he's spent too much time in bad company, hanging out with the wrong crowd, so that now he's parroting their line, 'It doesn't pay to try to please God'? You're veterans in dealing with these matters, certainly we're of one mind on this. It's impossible for God to do anything evil, no way can the Mighty One do wrong. He makes us pay for exactly what we've done, no more, no less. Our chickens always come home to roost. It's impossible for God to do anything wicked, for the Mighty One to subvert justice. He's the one who runs the earth. He cradles the whole world in his hand. If he decided to hold his breath, every man, woman, and child would die for lack of air. God is working behind the scenes. So, Job, use your head, this is all pretty obvious. Can someone who hates order, keep order? Do you dare condemn the righteous, mighty God? Doesn't God always tell it like it is, exposing corrupt rulers as scoundrels and criminals? Does he play favorites with the rich and famous and slight the poor? Isn't he equally responsible to everybody? Don't people who deserve it die without notice? Don't wicked rulers tumble to their doom? When the so-called great ones are wiped out, we know God is working behind the scenes. He has his eyes on every man and woman. He doesn't miss a trick. There is no night dark enough, no shadow deep enough, to hide those who do evil. God doesn't need to gather any more evidence, their sin is an open and shut case. He deposes the so-called high and mighty without asking questions, and replaces them at once with others. Nobody gets by with anything, overnight, judgment is signed, sealed, and delivered. He punishes the wicked for their wickedness out in the open where everyone can see it, because they quit following him, no longer even thought about him or his ways. Their apostasy was announced by the cry of the poor, the cry of the afflicted got God's attention. Because you refuse to live on God's terms. If God is silent, what's that to you? If he turns his face away, what can you do about it? But whether silent or hidden, he's there, ruling, so that those who hate God won't take over and ruin people's lives. So why don't you simply confess to God? Say, I sinned, but I'll sin no more. Teach me to see what I still don't see. Whatever evil I've done, I'll do it no more. Just because you refuse to live on God's terms, do you think he should start living on yours? You choose. I can't do it for you. Tell me what you decide. All right thinking people say, and the wise who have listened to me concur, Job is an ignoramus. He talks utter nonsense. Job, you need to be pushed to the wall and called to account for wickedly talking back to God the way you have. You've compounded your original sin by rebelling against God's discipline, defiantly shaking your fist at God, piling up indictments against the Almighty One. Elihu's third speech. When God makes creation a classroom. Elihu lit into Job again. Does this kind of thing make any sense? First you say, I'm perfectly innocent before God, and then you say, it doesn't make a bit of difference whether I've sinned or not. Well, I'm going to show you that you don't know what you're talking about, neither you nor your friends. Look up at the sky. Take a long hard look. See those clouds towering above you? If you sin, what difference could that make to God? No matter how much you sin, will it matter to him? Even if you're good, what would God get out of that? Do you think he's dependent on your accomplishments? The only ones who care whether you're good or bad are your family and friends and neighbors. God's not dependent on your behavior. When times get bad, people cry out for help. They cry for relief from being kicked around, but never give God a thought when things go well, when God puts spontaneous songs in their hearts, when God sets out the entire creation as a science classroom, using birds and beasts to teach wisdom. People are arrogantly indifferent to God, until, of course, they're in trouble, and then God is indifferent to them. There's nothing behind such prayers except panic. The Almighty pays them no mind. So why would he notice you just because you say you're tired of waiting to be heard, or waiting for him to get good and angry and do something about the world's problems? Job, you talk sheer nonsense, non-stop nonsense.